Hello, this is Alessandrina with Dexter and Alessandrina, and today I'm answering a question. It wasn't really received as a question, it was more like a comment on a video, and I thought it was so helpful and such an excellent question to help you with. So, I was referring to a video. Essentially, it was a comment on a video on ego versus true self, and how to recognize when we are in our ego and when we are in our soul. And so the difficulty with a question like this is that for a lot of us, we might feel, if we feel like we're not in our soul, in our true self, that might be very triggering. So it's important to realize that everything is on a spectrum. So when we are in our ego and we have, for instance, anxiety, which is what this person has, they feel anxious a lot. Most people do. They have this underlying sense of anxiety, and that, again, it's understandable and it's normal. And from there, then having this experience based on my video, they feel that, well, then they're always in their ego. So when we're sleeping, for some of us, it's possible to relax more and to be less anxious, and so we're more connected to our soul. And it's on a spectrum, so we're never completely in our ego or completely in our soul. We're going to be on a spectrum. So first, if you can accept that, and that, you're not, just because you have this underlying anxiety doesn't mean that actually you're always anxious. There can be times where you're more connected to your soul, and it's not a problem. It doesn't mean your soul cannot be connected with at any time. It doesn't mean that you're not being a true person, true to yourself. It simply means that there's some karmas, there's some patterns, there's some ego dynamics that you're working through in this lifetime to help you with that process. You're experiencing anxiety as a sign that something is off. So the anxiety is just a symptom. It's there to tell you, hey, rebalance this way or that way. So that's part of answering your question. Another part of your question is about, essentially, you say that you have no judgment and no expectation. And this is very important. The reason I'm bringing this up is that we all operate on a spectrum. There's no one on this planet that has no judgment or no expectation completely, maybe very, very few beings, enlightened beings. And what's important to understand is we don't know that. We can feel like when we don't have judgments of expectations because they've been internalized so deeply that now we don't even know that we have judgment and expectation because it's part of our process. We imagine that that's who we are, and that's been internalized. So that realization is very helpful because when you see that it's a subconscious process, there's less judgment of that. We tend to react to judgment and expectation and not want to be identified with that, saying, oh no, it's bad or wrong to judge or to have expectations, so I shouldn't do that. And then we become blind to our own internalized subconscious judgment and expectation. So realizing that when I talk in the other video about judgment and expectation, that might not resonate with you, and it doesn't mean that you have no judgment and no expectation. It means it's buried deep down, it's been internalized, and now it's more like a belief. You don't even see it as a judgment or an expectation because it's been internalized. So then in your comment you said, I just don't understand. And of course, if we're operating at the conscious level of our mind and we're not aware of subconscious internalized experiences and influences, then how can we know that? So then we don't understand reality. We don't understand how to make sense of information because we have these obscuration. We don't know what we don't know. So being open to that, now that helps you understand. It helps you understand that doesn't mean you'll understand everything. That said, by seeing that there's subconscious dynamics, that there's internalized dynamics, and that we're on a spectrum with everything that we feel and embody, and therefore, we're in a more neutral, open space, then we can understand. We can see, oh yeah, there's this influence, subconscious. Oh, there's this other thing I've internalized. Oh, I have a judgment of judgment and expectations. Oh, I didn't know that things were operating on the spectrum, so I was afraid that if I felt anxious, then it meant that I was never connected to my soul, for instance, or that I was always in my ego. So exploring without judgment, all of those things is very helpful, and I hope that the way that I try to do that today and embody that possibility is helpful to you. Sending you lots of love.